Hey everyone, what's going on? It's your boy Maddie. In this video, we are gonna working on sign up and sign in. Actually, we are gonna work deeply on logic of sign up and sign in. So let's quickly see what we will make. Here we have sign up and let's enter our username, for example, something like this. Okay, now let's click on create account. Awesome. As you can see, we were redirected to the home page. And here we have username, email, and logout button. On the console, we have this beautiful logger. I love it. This is URL of API, which we sent request. This is data, which server returns us. Perfect. Now let's click on logout. Awesome. As you can see, we were redirected to the sign up page again. Now, let's enter same email. Okay, perfect. As you can see, we can't register again with this email and the server returns us user already exists. Great. Now, let's sign in. Awesome. As you can see, we are in the homepage and it means that we are successfully logged into our application. Great. Okay, in this project, we are gonna use clean architecture, Bloc, and Dio for making HTTP requests, and also get it for dependency injection and the service locator. So what are you waiting for? Let's build it. Okay, perfect. I implemented sign up and sign in page, actually design out these two pages so that the video time is not too long. In this video, we are going to focus on logic of application. I mean, we are going to focus on clean architecture, Bloc, Dio, and so on. Because I believe that logic of application is everything. Clean code is everything. And I believe that implementation of logic is more important than implementation of design. But anyway, okay, let's go ahead. So let's start by adding dependencies. In this project, we are gonna use three libraries: Flutter, Bloc, Dio, and Gedit. You know that. We are gonna use Gedit for dependency injection, Dio for making HTTP requests, and Flutter Bloc for state management. So let's open PubSpec, and here under dependencies, let's add first of all Flutter Bloc. Next one is Dio, and last one is Gedit. Okay, now let's open terminal. Now here, let's type Flutter get. Great, and also let's save PubSpec file. Okay, awesome. Okay, now in the first step, we're gonna create use case for sign up, and you know that in a clean architecture, we have presentation, domain, and data layers. I have created presentation layer, and now let's create domain and data. Okay, inside domain, we have three folders: repository, use cases, and entities. You know that. This layer must be independent, and changes of other layers should make least change in this layer. Okay, so right here, let's create three folders called repository, use cases, and the last one is entities. All right, inside repository, we're gonna create our contract. So I mean by contract is abstract class, and in this abstract class, we're gonna define our methods, and implementation of that methods should be inside data layer. So here, let's create new file called authentication. Now right here, let's create abstract class. Let's call it authentication repository. Okay. The reason we create abstract class is that, as I said, this layer, I mean by layer is domain layer, must be independent. In simple words, this layer is our business logic, and I can say that this layer is heart of application, and implementation must be inside data layer, because implementation creates dependencies. So this is not good for us. Okay, let's go ahead and create our first method. Our first method is sign up. So here, let's create new future method. And let's call this one sign up. Perfect. The return type of this method should be either. Either is from darts library. We forgot add darts. We are gonna use darts to error handling. So here inside pubspec, let's add darts. Okay, now here, the return type of this method should be either, like this. Perfect. Now we can move forward and implement this method. As I said, implementation of this method should be inside data layer. So let's move on to the data layer, and here let's create our folders. Here we have 3 folders as well. The first folder is models, the next one is repository, and the last one should be source. Okay, now inside repository, let's create new file, and let's call this one again authentication. And here, let's create new class called authentication repository implementation. Why implementation? Because we're gonna extend this class which we created before and implement this method. Okay, let's extend authentication repository. Now we have an error, and this error tells us we have to override sign up. This means that we have to implement sign up method. So let's click on quick fix and select create one missing override. Just like that. Okay, perfect. Now inside this method, we are gonna implement our logic. But I mean by logic is not making HTTP requests. You know that we are gonna make HTTP requests inside source folder. And here we are gonna call method from source folder. And then we are gonna convert a result we got into a model and then to entity. For now, leave it, and let's go ahead working on source. So here, let's create new file, and let's call this one, for example, authentication API service. So here, to respect dependency inversion, first of all, we need to create the abstract class. Then we are gonna implement this abstract class exactly like repository. So here, first of all, let's create new abstract class called Authentication API service. So here we have one method exactly like here. So I want to copy this one and paste right here. Okay, awesome. Now let's implement this class. Okay, awesome. Now inside this method, we are gonna make HTTP request. Okay, perfect. As you know, we are gonna use DO for HTTP request. To do this, inside core folder, first of all, let's create new folder called network. Now, inside this, let's create new file called DO client. Okay, now what I want to do here. Actually, I made class to manage our request methods. I made class where I implement 4 methods: get, post, put, and delete. Okay, and when I start new project, I always put this class inside my project. So now I wanna paste right here. Okay, as you can see here, we have delete, put, post, and get methods. And also we have a list of interceptors like authorization and logger. We don't need 2 authorizations, so I wanna remove this one. But now we are gonna implement a logger interceptor. By using this interceptor, we can see our request, detail of our request, and API response in beautiful form inside debug console. So let's implement this one here. Let's create new file and let's call this one interceptors. Okay, and now I wanna paste right here. Now let's import DO package, and also we have to add logger to the pubspec. So let's open pubspec and add logger dependency. Alright, now let's back to our file and import logger library. Okay, perfect. Now everything is ready to use DO. So inside source and the sign up method, we are gonna use DO. Okay, before we start to implement, we have to do one more thing, and that is service locator. And you know that we are gonna use get for this one. Actually, I wanna register DO client inside our service locator and create one instance of this class, and then we are gonna use that instance in every request, and we will not have to create new instance from this class. So this is good, and this is good approach. Okay, inside lib, let's create new file called service locator. Awesome. Okay, now here, first of all, let's create an instance of get, and this instance must be global. So here, let's define final and call SL. This means service locator equal get it dot instance. Okay, now we need to create another method for setup locator and register our classes and object inside that method. So Let's call this one setup service locator. Awesome. Now here, let's register the client as a singleton. So let's use sl.register singleton. Okay, let's specify the client like this. Okay, awesome. Now let's back to the data layer and use service locator and call the client. Okay. To better error handling, first of all, let's put try catch. Okay. Now inside try, let's use sl do client. Let's import service locator and then let's call post method. So here we have to set our URL. This URL is our API URL. So what is URL of API? Let me show you our backend. This is our backend, and as you can see, server running on this URL localhost at 8080 port. So this is our base URL, and the rest of the URL should be equal to this one for register and this one for login. So we need to this URL for register. And the rest of the URL should be equal to authentication / register for sign up. So let's copy this one here, this base URL. Okay, let's back to our project, and inside the core folder, let's create new folder called constants. Now inside this, let's create new file. Let's call it API URLs. Okay, perfect. Now what I want to do inside this file. Inside this file, I'm gonna create class, and then inside that class, I'm gonna define our API URLs. This is a good approach for manage all of the URLs from one place. So let's create new class and let's call API URLs. Let's define static const call base URL. And the value of this should be equal to this one. Okay. And now let's define URL for register. So the URL of register should be equal to base URL plus this one, authentication / register. Okay, great. Before go ahead, I want to say something, and that is, imagine this URL is equal to this one. Okay, my word to you is that it makes no difference for you as a Flutter developer or as a front-end developer, and the backend developer should give you this URL. Okay, and there is no difference for you, and you just need to get URL from backend developer and set here and set for your base URL. Okay, let's back to our URL. Perfect. Now here, in addition to set our URL, we have to pass our data. I mean, this data. We have to pass email, username, password in body of our request. So here we have to access to our data. To do this, we can create model and then pass that model to this method and then access to the data. Okay, inside models, let's create new file called, for example, sign up request. Now here, let's create new class called sign up request. And or we can call, for example, sign up request prompts. Also, let's change name of file to this one. So here we have email, password, and username. Okay, let's create these three fields. Username. Okay, let's create constructor of this class. Perfect. We also need to create two JSON method. To do this, we can use generate JSON serialization. So let's click on this one. We don't need to from map or these two other methods. Okay. The reason why we need to map is that we have to convert our model to the JSON format, and to do this we can use this method. Great. So we have to pass this sign up request prompts to this method. To do this, first of all, we have to pass to the domain layer and inside authentication repository. So here, let's define an instance of sign up request prompts. Let's copy this one and paste here, and let's import model and also here. Okay, now inside post method, we have data and we can pass our data here. So let's use sign up request, and actually this should be you. And then we can use to map. Perfect. Now we have to return right side or left side of either. If our request is successful, we have to return right side inside try, and if our request is not successful, we have to return left side on the catch. So here, first of all, let's put result of our request inside variable called, for example, response. So on the right side, we can return this response. Okay, and on the catch, we can return failure message from server. For example, look at this. If a user already exists, the server returns us this message. So we can return this message to the user and display this message. So here we can return left side of either. Okay, now inside left side, we have to set our error message. To access to the server error message, we have to use on do exception. Now here, let's use e dot response dot data, and here we can access to the message. Okay, we also set this one side here. Okay, we are done here, and now we have to call this method inside implementation of repository. First of all, we have to register authentication API service and also implementation inside service locator, and then call by using get. Okay, here let's register by using register singleton. Let's specify authentication API service, and now here we have to set implementation of authentication API service. Okay, let's back to the implementation, and here let's return result of sign up calling. Perfect. Okay, in the last step, we have to create use case for sign up method, and then call use case when we click on create account. So inside domain layer and the use case folder, let's create new file called sign up. Okay, before implement our use case, let's create a new folder inside core called use case. And then inside this, let's create new file called use case. Okay. Now, what I want to do here, I want to create abstract class for use case, actually interface, and then we are going to implement this use case when we create new use case. And I can say that this is a pattern for our use cases. So here, let's create abstract class called use case. This class has to generate parameters. The first one is type, and the second one is param. Okay. This type is return type of a call method. So here, let's create new method. This method is future and is gonna return type, and the name of this method is call, and this method takes param. Okay, so when we create use case, we are gonna implement this use case and specify our type. For example, this should be in sign up either, and the param should be a sign up request params. So now here, let's create our use case. For example, sign up use case, and as I said, we need to implement use case which we create. Here, let's set either. The return type of our method is either, and also takes sign up request prompts as input. Okay. Now here we have to call this sign up method from authentication repository. Uh, let's register our repository just like that. Authentication repository and also implementation of repository. Perfect. Now here, let's call by using SL and call sign up method. And here we have to pass from. Perfect. Now in the last step, we are gonna register our use case inside service locator. Okay. Okay, now everything is ready to call sign up use case inside presentation layer and register our first user. So let's open sign up page, and here when we click on create account button, we can call our use case. Okay, so let's use service locator. Now inside call, we have to create an instance of uh, sign up request prompts and pass an instance of this class to the call method. So here inside prompt, we can set sign up request prompts. So here we can set our email. To access value of email, we can use controller, which I created before. We can do this exactly for password and also username. Great. Let's restart application. Okay, to fix this problem, we just need to wrap column inside single child scroll view. Okay. Now let's type, for example, Mahdi. Now let's click on create account. Okay, here as you can see we have an error, and this error tells us sign up use case is not registered inside Gedit. Okay, let's check our service locator file, and here as you can see we registered. Okay, so what is the problem? Oh yeah, we have to call this method. So inside main before run app. Okay, now let's restart. Okay, as you can see, this is our service logger, interceptor, which we registered for our DIO. And now, as you can see, we have beautiful logger here. Okay, this is our request for this URL, and this is a response of server, and our request is successfully with this email and username. Okay, now let's check our database. This is our database. Let's refresh. Awesome. As you can see, our data is here. Great. Now let's click again. Okay, perfect. As you can see here, we have 400 error, and this error tells us user already exists with this email, and we can't register new user with this email. Okay, perfect. Next, what I want to do, I wanna manage state of button. When we click on button, I wanna display loading inside button, and after finishing operation, I wanna return button to initial state. To do this, we can use Bloc. Okay, inside common, let's create new folder called Bloc. Inside this, again, let's create new folder called button, and I'm gonna use qubit, so 2 files is enough for us. So first of all, let's create new file called button state qubit, and another one should be button state. Perfect. In this qubit, we have 4 states: initial, loading, success, and failure. So let's create these 4 states. How we can do this? So we have to create abstract, actually interface for our states, because type of all our states should be same, and we have to specify this state inside qubit. So let's create abstract class called button state. Now let's create first state. So by state is class. So let's create first class called button initial state. Okay. In order for it to be button state type, we have to extend this class. So let's write extends button state. Awesome. Okay, we created our first state successfully, and now let's go ahead and create second state. Second state is loading. Again, let's extend button state. Okay, now let's create third state. The third one is success. And let's create last state. Last state is button failure state. Perfect. And in this state, we need to display. In this state, we are gonna display error message. So we need to pass error message to this state. To do this, we can create prompter called error message. Okay, and let's create constructor. Perfect. Implementation of state is finished, and now we can move on to the button state qubit. Here, let's create new class called button state qubit. So in order to use qubit, we have to extend qubit. Perfect. Now here we have to specify our state. What is our state? Our state is button state. So let's use button state. Perfect. So this error is related to qubit, and qubit asks us to specify initial state. So let's use super. Now here, let's set initial state. Perfect. Okay, when we click on button, we have to execute our use case. To do this, here we need to create method for this one. So let's create new method called execute. This method should take two parameters, use case and our use case and prompts. So type of prompts should be dynamic, and type of use case should be use case. And the use case should be required. Perfect. Now here let's put try catch. On the catch, we can emit our failure state. I mean by emit is change current state to button failure state. To do this, we need to use emit. And here we have to set button failure state and error message. Perfect. And on the try, we need to call our use case. The return type of our use cases are either. So let's use here either. Await use case and call. Okay. And we need to pass our prompts. Now we need to check result. The return type of result is either, so we can use fold. Okay, on the error, we can again emit button failure state and pass error right here. And on the right side, we can emit button success state. Awesome. Okay, now we can use this qubit. So let's move on to the basic app button, and here, you know that in order to rebuild widgets in response to new states, we need to use Bloc builder. And next, I want to create two widgets. One of them for when state is loading, and one of them for state is failure or initial or success. And actually the widget is same, but when instead is loading, instead of display text, I'm gonna display loading, and also I wanna make button disable. So here let's create new widget called loading. Let's return this elevated button. Okay, here instead of display text, we're gonna display circular progress indicator. Make button disable, instead of pass unpressed, we need to set null. And another one should be initial. Okay, now in child of container, let's use block builder, specify our qubit, and also button state. Okay, here let's use builder. So we need to check if state is button loading state. Let's display loading widget, and in default, let's return initial. We don't need to check 3 states like this one. Okay, and let's remove this elevated button. Perfect. Now, if I save, I think we will have error, and that error is related to block injection. Great. As you can see here, we have error, and this error is related to our injection, because we need to inject our qubit to the widget 3. So here inside sign up page, to inject our qubit into the widget 3, we can wrap this widget, first widget of body, inside block provider, and here we can inject our qubit like this. Now let's restart application. Perfect. As you can see, we have no more errors. Great. Now here we need to call this method, execute method, which we created inside qubit. So let's use context dot. Actually, we need to pass build context here, and to call this method, execute method, we can use read method and specify our qubit, then call this function. Okay. To use case, we can pass our use case like this. And for prompts, we can pass this sign up request prompts like this. And let's pass context. Okay, now let's save. If I click again, we will have error because the context of uh, injection is the same inside create account button, and we need to wrap basic app button inside builder. Now let's fill again. Okay, we don't have any error, but we didn't see any loading here. So let's move on to the qubit and check our problem. Okay, uh, our first state is button initial state, and when we call this function, we have to change this state to the loading. So here, let's use emit and change state to button loading state. Now let's click again. As you can see here, we have loading, but speed of sending response from the server is high, and because of that, we can't see anything and state change immediately. To fix this, we can use future and set delayed for 2 seconds. Now let's click again. Great. As you can see, here we have loading. But we have to set a color when button is disabled. So here, let's set disabled background color. And I wanna set shadow just for initial. Okay, perfect. We can change color of a circular progress indicator to, for example, blue. Okay, perfect. Or white. I think white should be better. Great. In the next step, we need to listen to the state of button, and if state is equal to success, we're gonna redirect user to the home page, and otherwise, if state is failure, we can display error message. To do this, we can use block listener. So let's wrap safe area inside block listener. Now here we can check if state is button success state. We can do something here, and if, for example, state is button failure, we can display a snack bar here. Okay, so let's create snack bar. Content should be text with error message. And now let's display by using scaffold messenger dot all dot I think show snack bar, and let's pass snack bar here. Perfect. As you can see, this is our error. Now let's, for example, register again with this email. Perfect. As you can see here, we have an error, and this error tells us user already exists. Perfect. Now let's create empty homepage and redirect user when state is successfully. So inside presentation, let's create new folder called homepage, home. And inside this, let's create new folder again called pages, and here let's create new file called home. So here we need to create stateless widget. Let's call it homepage, and here let's return scaffold instead of container. Perfect. Let's back to the sign up, and here let's use navigator dot push replacement, and here we can use material page root, and for builder we can use home page. Okay, let's type something like this, for example, test s. As you can see, we were redirected to the home page, and it means that our request is successfully. Great, perfect. Okay, now I want to restart application. Okay, as you can see, we have sign up page, and this is wrong. Why? Because we registered and we were directed to the home page, and this means that we were authenticated. And when we open up again, we should be directed to the home page. So we have to fix this problem. To do this, actually, I want to determine user is authenticated or not. To do this, when we registered, server sends us this response, and here we have token. So we can store this token and then check this token. If this is null, this means that user is unauthenticated, and otherwise user is authenticated. To store this token, we can use shared preferences. Okay, So let's open pubspec file, and here let's add shared preferences library. Okay, perfect. Now we can use shared preferences and store token. We can do this inside implementation of repository. So let me close these tabs. Now, inside implementation of repository, right here, instead of return value of sign up, first of all, let's check result of sign up. So you know that the return type of sign up is either. So here, let's put result of sign up inside variable. Okay, you know that the return type of result is either, so we can use fold method and check right side and left side of result. On the left side we have error, and on the right side we have data. Okay, on the left side we can return left side of either and return this error message. So let's return left. And on the right side, if we check, we will see that we returned right with response, and the type of response is response. So here, let's define response and put data inside this response. Okay, now let's go ahead and store token inside shared preferences. So to do this, we need to create an instance of shared preferences. Okay, now let's use shared preferences dot set string method. Why string? Because the type of token is string and the key should be token, and for value we are gonna extract token from response. So let's use response dot data and extract token. Perfect. Oh, we forgot one thing, and that is we need to return right. Okay, and the value of right can be, for example, this response. Okay, awesome. Okay, next, I wanna create use case for checking the user is authenticated or not. So inside domain and repository, let's create new method. The return type of this method should be Boolean. We just need to check if user is authenticated or not. We can call it, for example, is logged in. Okay. Now let's override inside implementation of repository. Okay. Now we need to create another file for authentication local service because this is not related to API, and we are gonna working on local because shared preferences is local. So um, here inside source, let's create new file called authentication local local service. Now here, exactly like API, we need to create abstract class first of all. So this is respect for dependency inversion. Let's change class name to authentication local service. Okay. Uh, Inside local, we have one method, and that is logged in. Great. Now let's create new class and extend authentication local service. So authentication local service implementation and extend authentication local service. Perfect. Now here we're gonna use shared preferences. So first of all, let's create an instance of shared preferences. Now here, first of all, we need to get token by using shared preferences. So the our key is token. Okay. Now let's check if token is null. It means that the user is unauthenticated. And let's return false. Otherwise, let's return true. Perfect. Okay. Now here we can call this method from authentication local service by using getIt, and also we need to register authentication local service inside our service locator. Okay, let's do this and then come back here. Okay, now here let's use SL authentication local service, and the return is logged in. Perfect. And finally, you know that we need to create use case for this method. So inside use cases, let's create new file called is logged in. Let's copy sign up use case and change its name to is logged in. The return type of this use case is Boolean, and we're not gonna pass anything. So let's set dynamic, and also return type of call should be Boolean. Here we don't have anything, and let's call is logged in. Perfect. And finally, let's register this use case inside service locator. Let's add use case at the end of name of class. Okay, now everything is ready to call is logged in. Okay, now what I want to do, inside main, we set sign up page as a home page, and here we have to check if user is authenticated, we have to set home page, and if user is unauthenticated, we have to set sign up page. To do this, I wanna use Bloc. Okay, here inside common, let's create new folder called authenticated, and inside this, let's create new file for state called authenticated state, and another one called authenticated state qubit. Okay, now exactly what we did before for button state. Here, first of all, we're gonna create abstract class called authenticated state. Okay, perfect. We have three states. The first one is initial, the second one is authenticated, and the last one is unauthenticated. So let's create these three states. I wanna call first state app initial state. Let's extend authenticated state. Okay. Second one is authenticated. And the last one is unauthenticated. Now let's create qubit. Authenticated state qubit. Let's extend qubit. Okay. Our state is authenticated state. And now we have to set initial state. So let's use super. Initial state is app initial state. Perfect. Now here, let's create method called app started, and here we're gonna call is logged in use case and determine user is authenticated or not. Okay. Now we can check if is logged in. So let's emit authenticated state. Okay, and else let's emit unauthenticated. Perfect. Now we can use this qubit inside main file. So you know that first of all we have to inject our qubit. So let's wrap material app inside block provider. And in injection stage, we can call app started, just like that. And here we can use block builder. So let's use block builder. Now here we can check if state is authenticated. Let's return home page. And otherwise, if state is unauthenticated, let's return sign up page. Perfect. And in default, let's return container. For example, instead of returning container, you can return, for example, a splash page or anything else. Okay. Now let's restart application. Okay, perfect. Now let's sign up again. Okay, now we are in the home page and let's restart application. Great. As you can see, we don't have any error, and also we are in the home page again. And let's try again. Look at this. I restart application and you can see that again we were redirected to the home page, and this means that uh, we are authenticated. Okay. Next, we are gonna display information of user on the home page, username and email. Okay, to do this, we need to create use case and get user info from server. This is our API for getting users profile, and as you can see, for getting user information, we are gonna set token in the header. And this is our data. As you can see, here we have username and email, and you know that we need to create model and entity for information of user. So let's back to our project. Here, let's start from entities. Okay, here let's create new file called user. And here let's create our user entity. We have two fields, email and username. Perfect. Let's create constructor. Okay. Now I want to copy this one, and then let's go to the models folder and create user model. You know that uh, our model is exactly like entity, but inside model we have from JSON to map, and we can have other methods, and we have to use model inside data layer and entity inside presentation and domain. So inside models, let's create new file called user and paste right here. Let's change entity to model. Perfect. Now let's create from map method by using generate JSON serialization. Perfect. We don't need to map or these other methods. Okay. And also we need to create an extension for convert model to entity, because inside implementation of repository we need to return entity to the use case, and then use case is gonna return entity to the presentation layer. So let's create an extension here called user x model on user model. Perfect. Okay, now inside repository, let's create new method called return type of this method should be either, and let's call it, for example, get user. Awesome. Okay, now let's create exactly like this method inside data layer. Okay, now here we're gonna call API, our API, and fetch information of user. So first of all, let's put try catch. On the left side, let's return error message. And on the try, we are gonna use do and get method. So let's copy this one here and paste here. Let's use get method. Okay, now we need to set our URL, I mean API URL. So let's move on to the API URLs, and here let's create new const called user profile. And our URL is this one, users profile. Perfect. Now here let's set user profile. Okay. The next, we are gonna set our token. Actually, we send our token to the backend, and then backend sends us a user of this token. So to set a header, we can use options in the do. Okay, now inside options, we have parameter called headers, and the value of headers should be map, and here we have to use authorization, and the value of this should be our token plus bearer. Okay, and now we have to set our token here after bearer. Okay, so we have to use shared preferences to get our token. So let's create an instance of shared preferences. and get token. Perfect. Now here we can set token. Okay, awesome. And on the right side, we can set response. So let's return right and set response. Perfect. Okay, now we can call this method inside implementation of repository. So here, let's use this code here. Let's call get user. So as you can see, the return type of result is either, so we can use fold and determine the result is right or left. And this means that the result is successful or failure. So left means that our request is failure and we have error, and the right means that our request is successful and we have data. On the left, we can return left side with error message, and on the right side, we have to return user entity. Actually, data is response, because here, as you can see, we are going to return response, and the type of response is response. Okay, so now we have data in this format, in map format, in JSON format, and we have to convert this one to the Dart object, I mean to the model, and then convert model to the entity. So here, let's define model, user model, and let's use user model dot from map, and here we have to pass response of API. Okay, now we have user model, and then now we have to convert this one to the user entity. And finally, let's return user entity on the right side. Perfect. Okay. Now let's create use case for this one. Let's copy sign up and paste right here. Let's change its name to get user use case. We don't have anything to pass, so let's set dynamic here. And let's call get user. Perfect. And in the next step, we have to register our use case. So here, let's register use case inside service locator. Perfect. Okay, now we can use this use case and display real data here. So to do this, we can use Bloc again because we need to manage state of this part of homepage and display loading, and when our data is ready, we can display our data. Okay, inside home folder, let's create new folder called Bloc. Inside this, let's create new file called user display qubit, and another one called user display state. Perfect. So we have uh, three states here: loading, loaded, and failure. Okay, so first of all, let's create our abstract class called user display state. Now the first state is user loading. Second one is user loaded. And when state is user loaded, we need to display information of user. And to do this, we need to use user entity. So here we have to define parameter called user entity and create constructor for this class. Okay, and the last one is load user failure, and again here we need to display error message. So let's define parameter called error message, and let's create constructor. Okay, great. Now let's move on to the qubit and create our qubit. So let's define new class called user display qubit, which we have to extend user qubit. Sorry. And now let's set our state, which should be user display state. And now, as you know, we need to set initial state for our qubit. So let's create constructor and use super. So our initial state should be loading. Should be user loading. Okay. Now let's create method for display user information. Actually, we are gonna call our use case inside this method and then display information. Okay. Wait, let's use SL user get user use case. The return type of result is either, so we know that we can use fold. On the left side we have error, and on the right side we have our data. Just like that. Okay, now on the left side we can emit failure state. It means that our request is failure. So let's emit load user failure and pass error message. Perfect. And on the right side we need to emit user loaded and pass data. Perfect. Okay, now we can use our qubit inside homepage. So first of all, let's wrap center inside block provider. User display qubit, and let's call display user method at the injection stage. Okay, now we need to use block builder in response to rebuild widgets. So let's use block builder, and now we can check if state is user loading. We can display circular progress indicator, and if state is user loaded, we can display our widget, I mean this widget. And if state is load user failure, we can display text with error message. Perfect. Okay, and in default, let's return container. It doesn't matter. Okay, now let's restart. Okay, as you can see here, we have user loaded, and it means that our request is successful and we got information of user. So now we can display user information. So we need to pass user entity to the username and email. So let's define an instance of user entity. And here, let's display user dot username. And here, let's display user email. Okay. And now let's pass user entity to the our widgets. Great. Awesome. As you can see, we logged in with this username and with this email. Perfect. Next, we are gonna working on logout, and first of all, let's display logout button here, and then we are gonna working on use case. So here, as you can see, I created logout widget, and if I put this one inside our widget tree, I think we will have error because we don't inject our qubit. I mean this qubit button state qubit, and we need to inject button state qubit into the widget 3. So as you can see here, we have error. So let's fix this one. As you can see here, we have block provider. We have one block provider, and while we need to inject other qubit as well. So we need to use multi-block provider like this. Here we have list of providers. Now let's use block provider. Okay, and second one should be button state like this. Now let's restart. Perfect. Let's set title. And also let's make a space from sides. Okay. Great. Now let's working on use case, logout use case. So inside domain, let's create new method called logout. In this method, uh, we don't need to return anything. So this is related to our local, and we are gonna clear uh, token from shared preferences. So let's create method exactly like this one here inside authentication and local series. Now let's implement this one, and now let's create an instance of shared preferences. And let's clear shared preferences. Awesome. Now let's call this one inside implementation of repository. This should be local. Perfect. Now, finally, we need to create use case for this one. Okay, let's copy this one here, and then let's create new file called logout. Paste right here. Let's change use case. Name of use case to logout use case. We don't need to return anything, so let's remove either. Let's override again. And here let's call SL authenticated repository and logout method. Awesome. And in the next step, you know that we have to register our use case inside service locator. So let's do this. Log out. use case. Okay, now we can call this use case when we click on button. So let's do this. So you know that we need to use execute function from button state qubit. So let's use context.read. Let's specify button state qubit and call execute function. Here we need to pass our use case. You know that our use case is logout use case. Perfect. Okay. Next, I want to listen to the button changes, and if state is button success, I'm gonna redirect user to the sign up page. So to do this, let's use block listener. It is exactly like block builder. Block listener. We're gonna listen to the button state qubit. Perfect. Now here, let's check if state is button success state. Let's navigate to the sign up page. So let's use navigator dot push replacement. Okay. Perfect. Now let's click on logout. Okay guys, perfect. As you can see, we were redirected to the sign up page, and it means that we have successfully logged out. Great. Next, we are gonna working on sign in. This is our API for sign in, and also this is our body. So we have to send email and password in the body to the server. So let's create a model for sign in request prompts. Let's jump into the data layer and models. Let's create new file called sign in request prompts. Okay, let's create new class. We have email and password. Okay, we also need to create toMap method because we need to convert sign in request prompts to the JSON format. So we can use toMap method. Let's generate by using generate JSON serialization. Okay, let's remove extra methods just like that. Now inside repository, inside domain layer, let's create new method called sign in. It is exactly like sign up. So let's copy this one, paste here. Let's change its name to sign in. And here, let's set signing request prompts. Okay. And let's override inside implementation of repository, just like that. Okay. We need to create exactly this one inside Authentication API service. Let's copy this part of code from sign up. As I said, it is exactly like sign up, and we just need to change our request, prompts of our request, and also our API. And for a URL of API, let's define new uh, static const and change register to login. Okay, now here let's use login instead of register. Perfect. Okay, next, as you know, we are gonna call sign in inside implementation of repository. Okay, let's copy this part of code from sign up. Okay, uh, we're gonna store token inside shared preferences as well. It is exactly like sign up. So let's change method to sign in and pass sign in request. Okay, great, awesome. We are done here, and next we have to create our use case. So inside use cases, let's create new file called sign in. Let's copy sign up codes and paste right here. Let's change its name to sign in use case. And also let's change our prompts to sign in request prompts. Okay, now let's change method to sign in. Perfect. Okay, and in the last step, we have to register our use case inside service locator. Just previous use cases, which we did. Awesome. Now everything is ready to sign in, and we can move on to the presentation and call our use case. Now, if I click on sign in, we will have a block injection problem because we didn't inject button qubit inside sign in. Okay, let's open sign in, and here let's wrap safe area into the block provider. Now we can use button set qubit. Okay, let's restart. Let's back to the sign in again. Great. Perfect. Now let's define two text edition controller to access to the value of text fields. Okay, now let's set our controllers. Okay, now we can call execute function from button state qubit inside unpressed or basic app button. So let's do this. You know that we need to use read method, and to do this we need to access to the context. So let's define an instance of context here, and now let's use context dot read. Let's specify our qubit. It should be button state qubit, and call execute function. Now here we have to pass our use case. Okay. Now exactly what we did inside sign up. I wanna listen to the button changes, and if state is equal to button success, I wanna redirect user to the home page, and if state is button failure, we are gonna display error message using snack bar. So let's copy this block listener from here and paste right here. Perfect. Now let's enter our email and the password. Okay, let's restart. Now let's try one more time. Okay, we have error related to the button state qubit. Great. We need to use builder method because the context of injection is same as a context of button. So we have to use builder and create new context. Okay. Now let's try again. Let's restart. Perfect. Oh, great. We didn't pass our prompts to the our use case, so we need to pass sign in request prompts. Email should be email controller text, and also password should be password controller text. Okay, perfect. As you can see, we were redirected to the home page, and it means that we are successfully logged into our application. And this is wonderful. Congrats. Okay, our project is finished, and I hope you enjoyed video. If you have any question, please feel free and hit me up in the comments. See you soon in the next video.